Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Kulam to all. A good, peaceful day, a beautiful Sabbath rest to you. This is Bill Bullock again, and I'm coming to you live from the Biblical Lifestyle Center in Texarkana, USA. This is our time to set aside a few minutes on the Sabbath, morning where I am, maybe evening where you are, or some other time of the day. But thank you for letting me be part of your Sabbath day. We're walking in the light. That's our series for the year 5785 from creation. Walking in the light, discovering the secret wisdom encoded in Torah's timeless stories. We are in section 42 and 43 of the series. There's 54 altogether, so sections 42 and 43 are involved. So today we're going to say thank you for joining me, joining our fellowship here by internet, at least, for the concluding segment of our meditations in Torah's fourth book. It's called Sefer Bamidbar in the Torah, in the English language from the days of the King James Bible. We call it the Book of Numbers. This is part of the epic great nation establishment narrative of the Bible, of the Torah in particular. It's going to wrap up today, this Sabbath, with a two-parsha unit known as Matot Maseh, basically tribes or extensions of the patriarchal line, and journeys or travels or points and places of departure and arrival. The unit that we're going to be studying in Parsha Matot Maseh comes at the end of a long journey, a journey out of Egypt, a journey to freedom, a journey to relevance on the world stage, a journey towards societal impact the King's way, the more excellent people model, the snow globe people of the Holy One. This narrative we've been reading, this unit comes at the end of this long narrative of the establishment of the great nation that the Holy One promised to Abraham. So it's called and placed at the end of Sefer Bamidbar, at the end of this journey, for a very important reason, beloved. What is that very important reason? Why it's at the end? Because this is not for novices. The subject matters that we will discuss in Parsha Matot and Parsha Maseh, the end of the Book of Numbers, will be advanced graduate level studies in kingdom diplomacy. If we are to be who we are called to be, if we are to do what we're called to do, if we have to have the impact as a nation, cross-generationally upon the world, if we're to do that, then we must learn advanced graduate level studies in kingdom diplomacy. Novices or initiates are those who believe that the faith walk, the way of getting to know and understand and walk with the Holy One. Novices and initiates are those who believe that this faith walk are so that they can learn how to get the Holy One, the Creator, to do what they want Him to do things their way, for their own pleasure, for their own comfort, for their own satisfaction, and or for the advancement of their ethnicity or their family line or their household finances or whatever. The novices or initiates are those who believe that they control the Holy One. They want to get a blessing from the Holy One. They want to do whatever's necessary to get a blessing, or at least in some cases of novices and initiates, they desire to avoid falling under the Holy One's curse as they imagine it to be, going to hell when they die, or suffering the consequences of sin on earth or in the afterlife. That's the novices and initiates to the program, to the faith walk. Think in those terms. Novice approach is, of course, a place to start. It may be even a good place to start. It's better than some of the atheistic or agnostic approaches to the world, or just total oblivion to the spiritual realm. So it may be a good place to start, but the novice approach, the initiate approach, is not by any means where we should aspire to end up in the journey. And so here we are, closing on the end of the journey, and at least in the Book of Numbers. We're going to have some postgraduate studies, some doctorate level, PhD level studies in the Book of Deuteronomy coming up, but we're not there yet. We're still in Numbers. And so we've talked about what initiates or novices in the faith walk are. Let's talk about where we're going, though. Mature, seasoned participants and practitioners of emunah, of faith, as it's called in English, of this sense of clinging to and walking in tune with and in rhythm with and sync with the creator of the universe. Mature and seasoned practitioners of emunah are those who embrace the disciplines of Torah and the example set by Yeshua. I'll repeat that. The mature and seasoned practitioners of Emunah, which we're going to be talking about in Parsha Torah, which will be given lessons in Parsha Torah in Mosaic, are those who embrace the disciplines of Torah, buy into the game, buy into the plan of the Holy One, and those who follow in so doing and buying into the plan and practicing the disciplines, follow the specific example and teachings of Yeshua of Nazareth. Those are the people who are the mature, seasoned practitioners of Emunah. And those mature, seasoned practitioners, hopefully that includes you, hopefully it includes me, or will at some stage if we're not there yet, if you or I are not there yet. Well, mature, seasoned practitioners of Emunah have learned that faith walk is really about humbly serving the Creator, humbly serving the mankind, humbly serving geographical regions in which we're born and live our lives, and humbly serving creation as an ecosystem. And doing this in specific ways, strategic ways, as designed by the Holy One, doing this in ways that will faithfully walk out His will, not ours. His ways, not the ways of our culture or ethnicity or society. His words and not the words of religion or philosophy or ideology or politics. His words and not the words of our flesh, not the words of our pseudo intellect. His words of divine wisdom coming from the very throne in heaven, connecting, aligning heaven and earth. Don't you want to be a part of that, beloved? Mature, seasoned practitioners of Emunah have learned how to make the connection and hold on to the connection no matter what happens around them. Instead of wanting to know how to get a blessing or how to avoid a curse from the Holy One, mature and seasoned practitioners of Emunah, as I've defined them, want to know how to become a blessing, how to be a blessing just by living, by opening their mouth and speaking, by entering a room, by engaging in online discussions, by whatever activities we do. We want to be a blessing, not just get a blessing from the Holy One. If you want to know more about this, you can see that a sequence, a progression of events that's spelled out in the call of Abraham. We're all under this call of Abraham. We're mature, seasoned practitioners of Emunah. We go back to the beginning, and there were three things that he said. And he initially said, I will make your name great. You will become a blessed. You will be blessed. I will bless you. And then at the end, he says, no, yeah, you will become a blessing. You will be a blessing to every family on the face of the earth. That's the progression, going from getting a blessing in the beginning of our walk with the Holy One, walk with Emunah, and going all the way to the place where we become the blessing. Are you on the journey? Are you ready for some higher level courses about that journey? Consider that progression sequence. And consider also the Master's Prayer, not my will, but yours be done. And what he taught us to pray, the Master Yeshua taught us to pray, our Father who is in heaven or of the heavenlies, blessed, holy is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And then he got into the issues of giving daily bread, and forgiving trespasses, and leading not into temptation. Now, this issue of learning to be mature and seasoned practitioners of Emunah is quite a task, quite a calling. And I hope you're engaged, and I hope you're enthused, and I hope you're enthralled, and I hope you never choose another way again, now that you've tasted a little bit of it in the Torah. Our covenant calling, you see, is a glorious calling. It is to do as our patriarchs did, as Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, and Joseph did, to do as our patriarchs did and serve as portals of heaven, earth alignment. The realm of the heavens, the Hashemayim realm, the realm of the earth, the Haaretz realm, when they come together, they align on us, on our lives, on our countenances, on our conversations, on our actions, on our behaviors. Yes, that is whenever we see the covenant calling come into being. Whenever we act and we serve as sanctified vessels through which the Creator's life-giving energy, his kedusha, as it's called in Hebrew, flows from heaven into this world through these vessels, these sanctified vessels that we're called to be. The way our great rabbi, the faithful one, expressed it, you are the light of the world, the salt of the earth. This is how we become sanctified vessels and behave as sanctified vessels through which the Creator's life-giving energy and kedusha flow into the world. Now, that requires some things from us. And at the higher levels, when we leave the thing, I want to be blessed, and I want my family to be blessed, and I want my nation to be blessed, and I want my ethnicity to be blessed. When we leave that and we grow up and mature a little bit, and we begin to think, this calls upon us to deny ourselves and to follow him, follow the Holy One, follow his Mashiach, his Messiah, his Rabbi, and to follow him. And we be sent out then as witnesses of his greatness, witnesses of his goodness, witnesses of his goodwill, witnesses of his shalom and joy and simcha and hope, witnesses of these things. And to do so, we need to embrace a truth that is inconvenient for the world, that we are sent out as sheep among wolves. We are not here to entertain people. We are not here to make people like us necessarily, although we're not supposed to make them dislike us because of bad behavior on our part. Our goal is not to make people like us, make people want to be around us, but it is to reflect the Holy One's glory, to be vessels, sanctified vessels through which his life-giving energy, kedusha, flows into the world and the people around us. So we go out as sheep among wolves. We will be seated at a table in the presence of our enemies. That is the mission. And to do so, to accomplish this process and not die or go get hard-hearted in the meantime, we must be wise as serpents, the Master told us, and harmless as doves. So though we are wise as serpents, we don't use that wisdom to manipulate or control people or to curse people. We are harmless as doves. This is the secret wisdom of the disciplines of Emunah, as we've been learning them, at least in Parshas before Matot and Maseh. We are to be sheep among wolves, wise as serpents, harmless as doves, seeking first in all things the kingdom of God and in his righteousness. These are the things we do. And with this in mind, this being the general calling as we conclude the journey of Sefer Bamidbar, preceding Sephers, the books. With this in mind, I have a few questions for you, dear one, dear listener, dear watching person. I have a few questions for you to help you, hopefully, to lift your heads and to adjust to the light that we're walking in, and to begin to acclimate your thinking to seventh-day Sabbath level of spirituality, to the level of the Ruach, to the level of your seat in the heavenly places with Messiah, Yeshua. Draw close, then, beautiful family and friends. Draw close. Each of the questions that I'm about to pose to you is not random. It's directly related. Each of these questions is directly related to one or more of the themes of the 42nd and 43rd Parshas, Matot and Maseh. There is a reason for the madness. There is a rationale for what I'm doing. These questions are designed to help you elevate your thinking and cause you to think on a seventh-day Sabbath level of spirituality as we approach this Parsha. Matot and Maseh, these parshot have real-life parables in them. They really did happen, and they're really historic, and they really are true. But they are also parabolic. They are also hyperbolic. They are hyperbole. They are hyperbolic. And these parables address 5 main themes. I could say 6, but I'm going to leave that for another moment. 5 main themes, and I have therefore selected 5 thought-provoking, stirring questions or lines of questioning that are all on point for this particular time and this particular season and our particular level of study All these things, these questions I pose to you to prepare you for your studies in Parsha Matot Maseh. I pose these questions to you for you to consider at the Sabbath level of spirituality. Before we do that, though, would you join me, if you know it, in singing the Shema, the first opening lines, at least, of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam Vayim. Listen and hear and heed and respond appropriately, O Israel. Our God is the Holy One, and the Holy One is oneness. He is a unifying unity. Blessed be the glorious attributes and his kingdom forever. Amen. Well, now let's get into the questions I had to pose to you to get your minds elevated. The first area of focus in Parshot Matot Maseh will be the level of accountability of mature, responsible partners in the covenant for their speech and the words that they utter. The accountability for speech and the words that we utter. Do you understand the significance of this? So the question I ask would be, how are you doing, beloved, at kingdom diplomacy and brand representation? When I say brand representation, of course, I'm talking about the brand of B'nai Israel, the brand of the creator of the universe, the one whose name we bear, the one who we serve, the one who we are here to represent and serve as emissaries and ambassadors to the world, the one whose will we are to fulfill, the one whose words we are to act out, the ones whose ways we are to demonstrate and model to the world. How are you doing at kingdom diplomacy in your life right now? How are you doing at brand representation? If you want to look at some scriptures, you can write them down. I want to give you some things to think about. Genesis 1:26 will be where it all starts. We are to be the shadow, the Zel, the image of the Holy One upon the earth. That's all mankind's responsibility. But it got narrowed because of sin and difficulties we had with humanity and the fall. And so begin to get 12:3. Genesis 12:3 will be the next one I point you to. Genesis 18:19, Exodus 19:3-5. And Leviticus 10:10. There are so many more, but I'll leave that with you at this particular stage. We can go to Leviticus 19:1 and 2. Now, these kingdom diplomacy mandates, brand representation directives from the Creator of the universe that define our purpose on earth, means that we are here to present and offer and speak the heart and the vision and the wisdom of the Redeemer into this world. Our mouths, our tongues, our faculties of speech, even our demeanor and our facial expressions and our tone of voice, our rhythm of speech, everything is designed to be representational, and what we say is designed to bring heaven's energy into earth and impact the earth. It's radical, it's wild, it's unbelievably important, and yet it's the plan of the Holy One to bring his kingdom to earth through human speech and behavior and demeanor and modeling. So, presenting, offering, speaking the Redeemer King's vision, his heart, and his wisdom. And doing so instead of what most people do. The people of the Raging Nations do it differently. Most people who are even novices and initiates in the great Emunah walk do it this way as well. And that is to speak, instead of speaking the Holy One's words, in the Holy One's way, in the Holy One's tone, in the Holy One's rhythm, and the Holy One's timing, and a discipline, instead of doing that, speaking, uttering their own thoughts, their own opinions, their own creed, their own beliefs, their own attitudes, their own ideals, their own biases and prejudices, their own feelings and emotions, Do you see the difference? On one hand, the Holy One calls us to represent Him and to speak heaven's words on the earth. On the other hand, the human nature in its fallen state is to speak its own mind, to speak its own words, to speak its own attitudes, its own opinions, its own thoughts, its own creeds, its own beliefs, its own attitudes, ideals, and feelings, biases, and prejudices. And if we, the mature participants in the grand plan, if we do that, we misrepresent and misbrand our kings. That's the first issue, first set of questions. Another set of questions that goes along with it, or not really a set of questions. Let me put it this way. Let me give you what was said by one of the most revered followers and disciples, apostles of the Holy One's Messiah. Shaul, Colossians 4:5-6 said it this way. Walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. Let your speech, your utterance, let your speech always be by, of, and with, Greek, en. Let your speech be always en, chen, grace, mercy, covenant faithfulness, understanding that God can fix everything. Let your speech always be by, of, and with grace. Seasoned, he said, with salt, with salt of the earth, mission focus, that you may know how you ought to answer and respond to each person and situation. Colossians 4:5-6. Write it down if you hadn't had a chance to stop and look at it, or pause this video if you need to, and stop and go to Colossians 4:5-6, and let that message of the Apostle Shaul speak to you and tell you about this, how critical it is that we use these faculties, capacities of speech in the proper way to represent the brand. I want to give you another important speaker. This is the rabbi himself, the master, Yeshua. In Luke 12:12, he said, the Holy Spirit will teach you in the very hour what you ought to say. Oh, this is the key factor to becoming faithful, reliable, trustworthy speakers and representatives of the brand, to learn how to let our speech be what the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, the breath of the Creator Himself, breathing upon us, through us, out of us, speaks into the world. All right. So the questions that I would ask pertinent to this first level of discussion of the use of faculties of speech. Are you teachable still? Or are you self-willed? Are you a loose cannon with loose lips, which sink ships, of course? Do you talk too much? Do you tend to just talk all the time? Talk when you don't think about what you're saying. Talk when you don't even think about what impact your words or your demeanor or your conversation will have upon others. Do you talk too much and improperly? Do you overshare? Do you overcommit? Do you promise to do things, make declarations that things will happen that you cannot control, that you cannot guarantee will happen because our future does not belong to you? The future belongs to the Creator. Do you recognize that the future belongs to the Creator? His will must be done. And we speak our hope, our desires, but we don't speak promises and commitments. Help us not to do that. That would be overcommitting, oversharing, talking too much, saying things we have not seen, speaking things that were not quickened to our spirit by the Spirit of the God. So, do you talk too much? Do you overshare? Do you overcommit? Are you vocally obsessive compulsive? Do you have verbal OCD? I could put it that way. In other words, do you speak without a filter, without passing it through the filters that the Torah recommends and the Messiah taught us to use? What are those filters? Now, we're going to find out. This discussion of vows and oaths take place in the beginning part of Parsha Matot. And in the discussion of vows and oaths, we're going to learn some lessons, but we're going to find out also that He has designed in certain circumstances for there to be filters that we pass our words through that can nix it and can say no. And in this parables and the metaphors that he's using, he's talking about the father or the husband of a woman. Now the issue here is, but in all of our lives, who's our filter? What is our filter? What will cause us to pull back what we would want to say or think we should say in order to fulfill the plan of the Holy One and represent the brand effectively? The Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit, he said, and the Rabbi himself, his own words, and the Torah. These are our filters. If it's not of the Torah, if it's not of the Rabbi, if it's not of the Ruach, then we learn to pull back because that is not the message. We're not representing the brand. Are we vocally OCD, obsessive compulsive, with a disorder that focuses our speech upon our emotions and our feelings at the time, upon the stress that we're suffering, upon the naivete that we are indulging, upon the vain imaginations that we and the world around us keep indulging, upon the unbridled passion that we keep promoting and responding to? What are we speaking out of? Are we speaking out of the heavenlies through the realm of the filters of the Rabbi and the Ruach and the Torah, or are we speaking out of emotion, expressing ourselves and speaking out of stress and anxiety, speaking out of a sense of insecurity, speaking out of naivete, speaking out of vain imagination, or speaking out of unbridled passion? You see, what we say is very important. Second area of focus, and we'll get more detailed hopefully if we have a chance to talk about this issue of the vows and the oaths and about out of control, unregulated speech and what that does to the witness, the testimony, and the service of the Holy One that we're called to give. The second area of focus, however, beyond vocal abilities and capacities, is the issue of a tendency toward tribalism. Do you understand? Tribalism. And the question I'm going to ask you in this regard is, how tribal are you? With what group of people and what institutions do you feel a strong tribal connection and a strong sense of loyalty? Is it ethnic? Is it societal? Is it national? Is it ideological? Is it political? Who do you associate yourself with? Who do you identify with tribally, as if you are different? It's us versus them. And that's the whole tribal mindset. It's us versus them. And do you see how deadly that is to the kingdom of heaven on earth as is in heaven, without regard to nationality, without regard to ethnicity, without regard to skin pigmentation, without regard to ideology, without regard to political theory or position or party, without regard to even personal self-interest? One kingdom coming to heaven. So, with what people and groups and institutions do you feel a strong sense of tribal connection and a sense of loyalty? And who, in contrast to those people, do you write off subconsciously or consciously? You write off subconsciously or consciously as not worthy of your tribe, not worthy of your time, not worthy of your respect, not worthy of your interest, not worthy of your kingdom diplomacy, avodah, or service, or ministry, not worthy even of the king's favor, of his grace. Who do you deem not worthy of grace, not entitled to forgiveness? Who do you deem that you are better than because your tribe is better than their tribe? If you want to understand more about this, study about Sinat Chinam and the reason for the destructions of the temples in 586 BCE and 70 CE. But we'll move on. Well, continuing the questions about the second theme of Parshat Matot Maseh, to what degree are you willing and able to subordinate your personal, family, and tribal interest in its perspective, their perspectives, their agendas, and their groupthink narratives? To what degree are you willing to subordinate those things to the greater good, to the kingdom's plan, and to the furtherance of the kingdom brand? What degree? These are questions asked to get your mind elevated, and I'm not through yet. Third area of focus, third level of questions. The third area of focus is war. What are the impacts of war and rumors of war on your heart and on your life? To what degree have you been scarred and the quality of your representation of the Holy One's kingdom marred by wars and by rumors of wars? How have the wars and battles that you have faced or that you've been told about, read about, or been propagandized about, how have the wars and battles like that affected you? What have they done to your heart? What have they done to your shalom? What have they done to your emunah, faith? What have they done to your joy level? What have they done to your mission focus? What have they done to your capacity for goodwill toward men? What have they done to you? What have these wars? We're seeing in Parsha Matot, we're also going to have a war, the final war of the Sefer Bamidbar. We've had several wars. This is the war to end all wars in this sequence of narratives. And it's representative of the end of days, final battles. And it's the battle in our parable, in our metaphor, the battle with Midian, the battle to Nakam, Nishmat, in English says, take vengeance upon the people of Midian. We'll learn about what that means as we read these studies. I don't know if I have a chance to talk to you about that this morning, but we'll get to it in the greater studies, and I hope you will too. The fourth area of focus, after what war has done to you, how has it hardened your heart, or has it given you post-traumatic stress? Whatever war has done to you, or rumors of war do to you when you hear them, whatever panic level, or fear level, or anxiety level, or anger level they rise up in you. Whatever, when you start taking a side in battles you're not even a part of, like battles in the Far East or in the Near East or in Africa that you're not even a part of necessarily. If you start taking sides based on propaganda you're hearing, do you understand how war has beaten you, taken you off brand, taken you out of the greater mission and focused you on division upon failure of the kingdom's plan? So, fourth area of focus after the wars is memory. What do you remember and how do you remember it? How accepting are you of the past? What way stations and what points of departure along the road that you have traveled in your life do you see as being the most meaningful? What way stations and points of departure along the road that you've traveled in your life do you deem the most life-changing, shifting the narrative, shifting the direction of your life? And which ones do you think have molded your destiny the most? What critical life lessons have you learned along the way? You see, we're going to get in Parsha Maseh, toward the end of our discussions, we're going to get a listing of all 42 of the way stations, one by one. We arrived there, and we departed from there. It's double stated. Every one of them stated twice. We arrived there, and we left there. And something happened to us while we were there. All of them are mentioned. We don't have any breaks in the chain. 42 places we went, 42 way stations. The Spirit of the Holy One led us through the pillar of fire and the cloud. And they're all laid out for us in Parsha Maseh at the very beginning. And so all these things are laid out for us. And the question is, we don't get a chance to ignore or cover up or hide any of them. Some of them were very dark moments in our life, dark chapters in our life. There's one thing, things people were very cruel to us and we suffered very much, indignities. And some of us affected our bloodlines in negative ways. Some of them were blessings, but we don't get to pick and choose. It's our story. The whole thing is our story. So what critical life lessons have you learned along the way? And are there any, I call them footprint lacking way stations that you'd really rather not talk about? They're just too painful to think about. What do I mean by footprint lacking way stations? Well, I'm making a cultural allusion to the famous poem, Footprints in the Sand, and the idea that the two sets of footprints are walking in the sand, and all of a sudden when the road gets hard, the difficult times, there's only one set of footprints. And the young man talking to the Holy One says, why did you abandon me when things got really hard? He says, I didn't abandon you, I carried you. Those are my footprints you still see. The missing footprints are yours. You were carried during that period of time. Do you have any footprint lacking way stations that you just don't feel comfortable talking about? See, in the kingdom, there are no such things. Everything works together for good for those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. We can see through emunah, in the eyes of emunah. When we're mature and responsible, we don't let the hurt and the pain and the failure distract us. We stay on mission focus. The fifth area of focus, and the fifth area of my question will be about marriage and sexuality. The highest level of dedication to the Holy One is our willingness to let Him make decisions for us regarding marriage and how we conduct it and how we enter into it and how we finish it, and sexuality and what we do with our human desire to reproduce and to express ourselves in that way. Wow, the fifth area of focus is master's level, and the questions become are critical issues like marriage and coupling and companionship, romance, as the Western world likes to call it, sexuality, and legacy. Are these matters, these critical issues, fully surrendered to the Holy One and His will and His ways and His words, to His kingdom brand, to His divine timing and the order in which He and sequence in which He orders directs things to be done? Are they fully surrendered to His grand plan? Well, now we're talking master's level of the Emunah walk. We're talking mature, responsible, faithful stewards of the kingdom. Okay, so what do we got coming next? Following this week, when we get started next week, we're going to walk into what's called Sefer Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, as it's called in the Western world, the fifth and the final book of the Torah. And this Sefer Devarim is PhD level studies. We talk about master level studies, and that's what we're going to be talking about in Matot Maseh. But following the master's level studies, we get into a course of study that is presented to us in the book of Deuteronomy or Devarim, and these are PhD level studies in how to, in the latter days, in the kingdom coming to earth realms, at the highest level of performance, the highest level of service to the Holy One, we will live a life according to these PhD level studies. And in other words, what Devarim is going to do, what the book we're about to read and jump off into next week will do, is prepare us, mind, heart, soul, and body, to step into the snow globe the Holy One has designed for us, to become the Am Segulah, the Segulali, the special treasure people, Am Segulah, the snow globe people that is shown as the model, and to be the model for the world in a more excellent way. We're going to prepare us by reminding us of our great calling, the calling to excellence through channeling Kedusha, His heavenly energy, through our vessels into the earth in all ways. And along with that will come the Chaya, the life, the abundant life, Kavod, the weight of His glory, the manifestation of His presence, Chesed, the covenant faithfulness and kindness that goes with that, Chokhmah, the wisdom, the skill, practical skill of doing things and making things happen the way the King designs, and Kippur, the way of taking that which is broken, taking that which is wounded, taking that which is polluted, corrupted, and covering it, and putting a salve and healing balm into that covering that actually does not just cover it, but heals it from the inside out. That's the great calling to excellence through Kedusha. The second thing He's preparing us for in the book of Deuteronomy, we'll get into in the book of Devarim, is to make the great journey, to complete the great journey to relevance and positive influence with extreme accountability, ready to appear before Him and report and give account for what we have done in the body as we have been called to serve. Have we served? Well, we're going to see that take place. The third thing the book of Deuteronomy or Devarim is going to do is to initiate us, inaugurate us in the great mission of actually bringing tikkun, redemption, restoration, healing, fixing to mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline, household by household, family by family, individual by individual, as many as will come to the sound of His voice as reflected through humans like us, and also bringing restoration to the Edenic state of beauty, fruitfulness, and shalom that the Holy One's creation was designed and will again have in the Messianic kingdom and the world to come. So with that in mind, we should do our call to worship before we actually read from the script of the Torah, these metaphors, these true life stories that really happened, that give us these parables for our teaching on the higher levels of Emunah. Our call to worship, beloved, is the Baruch Hu. I hope you know it. This is the blessing we say before reading the Torah. addressing ourselves to the Holy One, we say, Baruch Adonai Hambora, Baruch Adonai Hambora, Leolam Baye, Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Nakar Banu Mikol Ha'ami, V'natan Lam Et Toratu, Baruch Ata Adonai, Notei HaTorah. Amen. So now, would you open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah? For we are just strangers in this earth. So please do not hide your instructions for living, your commandments as they're called in the Western world, from us. So now, with the Baruch Hu spoken, gather round, children of the Most High, beloved ones of the King. It's story time. Again, the great storyteller is ready to awaken us to and rejoin us into the story. Our training ground season of wilderness wandering, of nation building, great nation formation and establishment is drawing to a close. The theme of Sefer Bamidbar has been that our bridegroom king is leading us to be trained as special forces, special people. Every step of the choreography that he has laid out for us and we have read about in Sefer Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, has been an important phase in the training program. Each obstacle we encountered along the way, you encountered in your life along the way, has been strategically designed to prepare you for some aspect or other of an intensely challenging mission that we have in the earth that we've talked about already today. We are to model to the hostile nations, the nations that rage, and to the vain imagination, obsessed ethnicities and cultures of the world, the more excellent ways of the Holy One, the way he designed life on earth to be, the ways that lead to redemption and restoration and healing, and tikkun olam. A summary of the book that we've been reading would be that we have followed the pillar of fire and cloud all the way through good times and bad. We have followed the pillar of fire and cloud, and we've learned valuable lessons along the way. And we aren't ashamed to admit that we failed many times. And we made mistakes that are common to mankind. And we fell for the traps that are common and the temptations that are common to mankind as well. So we don't hide, we don't cover up the fact that we have not been perfect and we will not be perfect. We have followed the pillar of fire and cloud, though, all the way from the flaming mountain of the Holy One, where we began, to the sprawling Moabian plateau that we're on now, overlooking the Jordan Rift Valley and the river that runs through that valley, and looking across the valley to the Gilgal and Jericho and the Promised Land and the Alvarim, the mountains beyond. We're there. We're at the end of our journey, waiting for the next call to step across the river. We've traversed watershed after watershed, the storyteller would remind us. We've waded through wadi after wadi. We have painstakingly made the transition from the monastic shadows of Sinai, the mountain of the Holy One, to the bustling arena of nations that rage and peoples that imagine vain things. In the course of this journey, what happened to us? What became of us? What was the purpose of it? We have been taught and tested on the secret wisdom, on the mysteries of the Creator's grand plan and our part in it. We have been tested on the mysteries of how to establish and maintain heaven and earth interface and connectivity with throne room courtiership every day of our lives, every Sabbath, every festival, every moed, every season of time, every new moon. We are called, and we've learned how lessons of establishing and maintaining heaven and earth interface and throne room courtiership. We have been taught and tested on how to recognize and offset and then to counterbalance the fruit of the tree of knowledge that the world is suffering under. Tumah, the uncleanness. Choleh, the commonness, the ordinariness, the profanity of life lived independent of the Holy One and his disciplines. We have learned that we deal and we are in the midst of a people obsessed with Ra, evil, Shakat, corruption, Hamas, violence and cruelty, and who fall victim constantly to fleshly and pseudo-intellectual patterns of folly and of vanity. That's the world we live in. We're called to this world. We're not called out of it yet. We're called to be functioning lights and salt in this world. We've learned and been tested on our ability to receive and steward Kedusha infusions, energy infusions from heaven, the light, the salt, the energy, the holiness, the redemption, the restoration, the love, the joy, the hope that comes from the heavenly realms. We've been tested and tried on how to receive and steward those infusions. We've been tested and taught the ways to implement divine protocols of tikkun, of fixing ourselves and fixing the world and fixing the souls of broken people that we come across, the broken souls that they deal with. And I've learned to think about things in redemptive terms as opposed to judgmental and critical terms. We've learned how to implement divine protocols like that. And we've learned that even when we fail miserably, we get up and we try again. And the Holy One meets us in our trial. Well, it's taken a generation to get us where we are, but oh, the life lessons we have learned along the journey. Oh, how this Odyssey has changed us, how it has matured us, how every time we go through it again in the Torah, it changes more and matures us more, how it changes our perspective on life and on ourselves and on the Holy One and His plan. How it changes our frame of reference, our way of looking at the world and of other people and of nations that rage and peoples that imagine vain things, of families and groups and cultures that follow folly and vanity. It changes our sense of what is and is not important. It changes what our understanding of evil is and good, and what our understanding of corruption is and holiness and purity, and what our understanding of violence and cruelty is, and what our understanding of kindness and mercy is. It changes our understanding of our covenant calling and why we're really here on earth in the first place, and what a successful, well-lived life looks like, and is supposed to look like, and supposed to consist of, as opposed to what the world and its cultures and its societies and its conventions and its institutions have taught us was a well-lived, meaningful life. For better or worse, beloved, as we get to partial matot maseh, the obstacle course that the Holy One laid out for us as we left Sinai has been completed. Boot camp, basic training is over. We should be more mature, responsible disciples now. It's almost time, you see, for deployment. The next phase of our covenant calling, which we'll learn about in Parsha in Sefer Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, involves finding and assuming and taking up and standing in guard at our post. It involves establishing an honor as is in heaven portal, a portal through which the great infusion of Kedusha, light, salt, and energy can come from heaven to the earth, which the world so desperately needs. All eyes, as we begin this Parsha study, are all on us. So now, in this situation, every facial expression, every gesture of our hands or our bodies, every syllable we speak, every word we speak, every phrase we utter, every story that we tell, every comment that we make, every vow that we make, every song that we sing, even the tone of our voice and the vocabulary words we use, every action, every reaction on our part, every engagement with the nations or any of their members or the peoples that they vain thing or their representatives, every time we speak to them, every time we interact with them, it's being noticed. We are either representing the brand or we're not. And every time even we remain silent when we should speak and we're being prompted by the Spirit of the living God or the Messiah's words or the Torah to speak, when we don't do that, the silence matters as well. The world, you see, is a pond. And these things, our speech, our behavior, Our actions, our conduct, our reactions are all like stones thrown into the pond. Stones that create a wide-ranging ripple effect. What we do is important, and we will be accountable to the Holy One for that. That's the Master's level. The closing lines of Parsha Pinchas give us some indication, a reminder of how then we can handle this level of responsibility. What is an essential discipline for us to be able to do so? Numbers 29, verses 39 through 40, the last lines of Parsha Pinchas, the previous Parsha of Torah that led us up to this point, said these, meaning the Tamid, the daily presentation of an approach to the Holy One, and the Musaf, which are the periodic approaches that we make to the Holy One, drawing near and having intimate communion with the Holy One, being in His presence, drawing in all His energy at special appointed times, the Musaf. These things you are to present before the Holy One's face. You are to stand with Him in His radiant presence at the appointed times, in addition to your acts of confirming vows and free will surrenders of courtiership protocol. You are to do these things as alawot, as burnt offerings, it says in English, as minchot, as meal offerings or grain offerings, as it says in the King James, as desakim, as drink offerings, as poured out offerings, as it says in the King James, or shalom and as shlamim, as peace offerings, as fellowship offerings, as it's often said in the English. You are to present these things. This is how you live. This is the essence of how you draw your energy. This is where your source material is how you get in touch with the Holy One through these protocols, through these disciplines, and the meditations upon them if there is no physical tabernacle. So, with all that said, the last lines were, Vayomer Moshe el bnei Israel k'kol. And the Holy One, and Moshe, I should say, told bnei Israel everything, k'kol, of everything. Asher tziva Adonai el Moshe, just as the Holy One instructed and charged Moshe. So number one, essential key to us getting to the place where we can act maturely and represent the brand is to have our special times, appointed times of intimate fellowship and communion with the Holy One, out of which we draw energy from Him. And the second thing is to follow the instructions of Moshe, of Moses, as given to him directly by the Holy One. This is our secret to success. And with that being said, we enter Parsha Matot as follows. Vayadaber Moshe el Rashi Hamatot libnei Israel lemor. And then Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes of Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, saying, Zeh hadavar asher siva Adonai. This is the thing, this is the word, this is the substance of what the Holy One has enjoined. And he goes on, Ish kidor neder Adonai. If a man makes a vow to the Holy One, or he shavah shavua lesor isa al nafsho, or he swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement or declaration, lo yakel leva. He must not violate, break, denigrate the word he has spoken. He is to make it and do it and build it and form it and cause it to take shape just exactly as he said it. He is to do all that proceeds out of his mouth. So he is to do. Well, this first area of focus of Parsha Matot is a stunning one. Accountability for speech. Accountability for utterance. We don't just get to say anything that pops into our mind. We are responsible as mature citizens of the kingdom, as mature representatives of the brand. We are responsible for using our speech in ways the Holy One has directed and guided and will bless. So, Torah introduces us through Parsha Matot to the ultimate accountability of our vocalization, our verbalization. There are no idle words to be spoken. Whatever we speak, you see, becomes associated with our testimony. Whatever we vow becomes to us as binding as the Torah. So be careful what you speak, be careful what you utter, be careful what you vow. This will come to bear in Parsha Matot in a couple of ways. We'll see vows made. We'll see vows made by the daughters of Zelophehad. We'll see vows about their marriages and about their romantic inclinations and their use and employment of sexuality, their expressions of sexuality. We'll see that take place with regard to vows will be made. We'll see a vow made also with regard to the tribes of Gad and Reuven and the half tribe of Manasseh. They will make a vow that they will not be able to live up to. They may mean everything they said when they said it. It may have seemed like a good idea at the time. It might have even seemed spiritual and holy at the time, but they do not control the future. They did not control the future. The vow of these tribes, the tribal leaders, was that they would go over, they would not settle in the land of the Grand Jordan, although that would be their ultimate residing spot they wished. They asked and they received. They would not settle there immediately. They'd go into the promised land with the other tribes. They would fight the battle of conquest. And only when the battles of conquest were totally won and all the nation was subdued would they come back to their own new homelands to the east of the Jordan. Well, they didn't know that it was never going to happen, not in their lifetimes. They would not see the fullness of full control over the promised land in their lifetimes. They couldn't fulfill the vow. That's when we make a vow. We think we know the future. We think we control the future, but we do not. We cannot vow anything. We cannot promise anything unless we have given the specific directions from the Holy One to do so. So, the perils of overspeak, I call it. When we talk too much, when we say too much, when we can't control, we don't put a filter over our mouths. We don't let the Holy One and His Torah and His Mashiach, His Messiah, and His Ruach be our filter through which we speak. The perils of overspeak are the first challenge of Matot Maseh. We talk too much. So beware over committing. Beware over promising. Beware over analyzing and over explaining. Beware over emoting. Beware over compensating. Beware the perils of overspeak. Well, beloved, there are many examples given. There's things called vows or neder, and there's things called oath or shavua. And these things are presented in our text, in our parables, to teach us to remember there should be a filter. Let your mouth be filtered by the Holy One. Let your utterances be accountable to the Holy One. Do not speak your own will and your own mind. Do not give your opinions unless the Holy One has specifically directed you to, or the Spirit has moved you to. Beloved, that's the beginning of our studies in Parsha Matot Maseh. There's much more to talk about. There's so many more things about tribalism, about even due process of law, learning how to set up an infrastructure of due process and of kindness and mercy and forgiveness and the possibilities of restoration into our world. There are borders of learning where our authority extends and where it does not. There are things of boundaries that we need to learn, but those are all later in the Parsha. And then there's things about remembering the past and not being afraid to talk about even the dark times of our past, with everything becoming part of our testimony, giving honor and praise and glory to the Holy One through all our maseh, through all our travels, our journeys, our way stations of coming and of going. Beloved, it's time for me to leave you. Shabbat Shalom. If you want to read more about Parsha Matot Maseh or any of the Parshas, go to biblicallifestylecenter.org. That's our fellowship's website. There's a page on there, a web page called the Rabbi Sons page. And on there, among other things you'll see, which I hope you'll enjoy it all, but are the archives of past studies. Each week, I give 6 studies, an introductory study, and 5 daily studies to help you learn. They were designed for my children, my sons, as well. They were homeschooling and growing up, to have a daily study, to stay in the Torah, to stay up to date on what the times and the seasons of Torah provide as far as wisdom and understanding. If you go there and you are blessed and you feel the inclination of the Holy One, hit the donate button and leave an offering, a presentation, as you will, to help us to do what we do. But in the meantime, have a good week. Get ready for Parsha or Sefer Devarim, Book of Deuteronomy next week. What a glorious season we're going to have. And as we finish the book of Numbers, as we conclude the 4th Sefer of Torah, we say, according to our fellowship's custom, Hazak, Hazak, B'ni chazek. Be strengthened. Be strengthened. And may we all be strengthened and strong together. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week.